What's good, people? That's the Don here with another installment of the Hustle Podcast where we inspire and empower people to hustle. And I want to tell y'all why I even started this in the first place, why I want to go on this mission to inspire and empower people to hustle. And it really comes down to my experiences over the past 5 years. So, unless you've been living under a rock, and the reason I'm doing this is because I was listening to James Altucher on a podcast, and he says that, you should, if you're making content, to tell people what matters to you, why it matters to you, and why now. And so I want to basically explain to y'all what matters to me, which is inspiring and empower people to hustle, why that matters and why now. And it really comes down to what's happened over the past 5 years, like I said. So I'll give you guys some context. For the guys that don't know, what I'm saying? Like, I've had a pretty crazy come up. Somebody who came from a third world country, teenage parents, illegal immigration to 2 countries, refugee status, divorced parents, no college degree, barely passed high school, and mental illness, 3 hospitalizations, 2 arrests. And so I've been through some shit. And all while that was happening, I was starting businesses, I was creating things, I was investing. And it wasn't until 2020 when I decided to take the leap of faith from my day job, which was working at Lowe's at the time, selling products or whatever it was, or moving carts, whatever. And I decided I had some money saved up. I wanted to start a record label. And so that's what I was going to do. So I went and did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I went and I started a record label called Donation Music Group. I incorporated, I lent the company money. And I decided to go full-time entrepreneur. While I was doing that, I said, okay, well, I have some money saved up, so I know I'll be able to withstand like any BS if I decide to go all in. It was the middle of the pandemic. It was 2021. It was end of 2020, beginning of 2021, still in the middle of the pandemic. I was working at Lowe's. Lowe's was still open at the time here in Canada, in Calgary. And it was one of the only businesses that was still open during that time. And I was also doing Skip the Dishes, which is one of the other businesses that was very busy and open at that time. So I said, okay, well, if I can just go and do Skip the Dishes during the day, then I can work on my business for the rest of however long I want to work on. And because it's busy, I can, make the money that I need to make pretty quickly and focus on my business. So that's what I decided to do, and I decided to Skip the Dishes would give me the flexibility to do what I wanted to do, work on my business on my own time, set my own hours, etc. And I read it in a book somewhere called How to Make It in the New Music Business that said that if you want to go into the music business, it's not a bad idea to do something like Uber or whatever, Lyft. So that's what I went to go do. And I was making money. I was working my business. I made an album, but then I went off my meds. And then I decided, instead of working Skip the Dishes, to keep my expenses paid for and save some money to invest or whatever it was, which I had investments at the time. I had like 20 grand saved up. On top, I had 20 grand saved up. 10 grand was in investments. And another 10 grand was in a cash bank account in the business. And this was back in 2021 when 20 grand was still worth something, and so, and I had a car and, some RSPs and stuff like that. And so some stocks. And I decided that when I went off my meds, instead of keep working Skip the Dishes, I decided that I was just going to go live off of my savings in the business bank account. So that's what I did. And I depleted all the 10 grand that I had in the bank account, trying to figure out how to start a business and going crazy. You know what I mean? Like, imagine trying to start a business, which is stressful enough, but then you're off your meds and you're going crazy. That was the situation I was in, because I have schizophrenia. it was back then it was diagnosed as schizophrenia spectrum disorder. Now they've diagnosed it with schizoaffective disorder bipolar type. So I need my meds. And I thought that I would be able to, they told me I was going to be in this program for 3 years. And I thought that if I went to the program for 3 years, I'd be okay after 3 years. And I wouldn't have to take my meds anymore. I didn't know I had to take these meds for the rest of my life. I don't think somebody really explained that to me. And if they did, I didn't listen. So I thought, okay, the program is done. 3 years is done. I'm going to go off my meds. I'm cured. And clearly I wasn't. And they told me at the hospital, you need to get on your meds, but I didn't listen. So they brought me into the hospital. I didn't listen. I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. They didn't have me in a community treatment order, so they didn't make me take my meds, and I got out and went crazy, blew all the money that I had in my business bank account. There was all the startup funds. And yeah, so then I got hospitalized again. I got an assault charge. I pulled out a knife at a local bar. I got arrested. I got hit with an assault charge. The lawyer fee for that was like $7,000. Then there was another. So imagine you deplete all the money that was inside of the business account. So there's $10,000 gone in like 6 months, maybe less than that. And then on top of that, you get an assault charge of $7,000. And then on top of that, you have another $1,000 to $2,000 of bills overdue while you're in the hospital. And then on top of that, I got a credit card and I decided to buy other stupid shit like a new laptop or chains and Le Chateau. And so all my money from my investments were pretty much matched by the debt that I had. And yeah, I went into a bunch of debt. I got a credit card that I applied for at the time that was personally guaranteed, that I lied about in terms of my application, and they gave me a credit card with $15,000 credit limit, and I paid all my expenses during that time on the credit card, and I got into a bunch of credit card debt, and I ended up selling my stocks, and it still wasn't enough. And so yeah, so I ended up filing for a consumer proposal in 2022. And at the time I was still doing Skip the Dishes, and the Ukraine-Russia war happened, so gas went from being like cheap to being like super expensive, and our income wasn't keeping up. And so like I was still doing Skip the Dishes. I had all these bills, I had all this debt, gas was going up, overhead was going up, and all of a sudden I was outside of the hospital like trying to fucking survive on my own, trying to figure out this thing on my own. So that's what happened. And I tried to move back in with my mom. I tried to move back in with my brother. They wouldn't let me do it. They're like, no, sorry, can't help you. Sorry. And so and then I got kicked out of my apartment. So then I had to find a new place to rent. And the new place was more expensive. So my expenses were going like this. Inflation was going like this. Gas prices were going like this. Income was going like this, or going like this, going down. Expenses were going up. Income was going down, and debt was going up. And so I had to get to a point where I was like, you know what, like I have to figure out some way to pay off this debt, survive, and be okay. And I remember talking to my dad on the phone, and he's like, man, just go fucking work. Go hustle. Like, that was basically the message that he said. Like, just go work extra hours. If you're working 30, 40 hours, go work 60. And I was like, what? I fought him I fought back. I was like, no, that's stupid. I want to start my business and this, that, and the other. But he was right. And that's what I did. I went and worked 60 hours a week, and eventually I paid off my debt in a year. I set some goals. I went back to budgeting. I cut back on expenses, and I went to go hustle. And eventually I paid off my debt. In a year's time, I had 5 years to pay it off. I paid it off in a year. I saved up money. I started investing. I bought a new car. I got into a relationship, and now I'm in a much better place. And while I was paying off the debt and grinding hard, I was listening to podcasts and audiobooks about how to make money, how to invest, budgeting, finance. I was trying to absorb as much information I could about money and business and investing and finance as possible, so that I could get ahead and pay off this debt and be in a better place sooner than later. And so that a combination of working hard and then working smart, learning and applying myself got me out of my situation and helped me improve my situation. And so I was like, if I could do that, if I could just go hard, learn all this stuff, grind hard, and improve my situation from like, I don't know, like 15 grand in debt to having like 20 grand saved up in a couple years, then it's like, I wonder what I could do. I wonder how that information could help other people, And so that's how I was like, damn, like if somebody's going through that same situation right now where they're in a bunch of debt and they are kind of surviving on their own, they're trying to figure out what to do and how to get ahead. And I'm like, well, maybe I can help share some information to help me get out of my situation. So that's kind of where I was at, And so, and that's kind of where I'm at now, like I'm in a much better place. I'm still grinding hard. I'm still investing. I'm still trying to get ahead, but I'm no longer stressed about where trying to pay off a bunch of debt, so that's kind of where I'm at. So I just want to share the information that I learned along the way while I was doing that skip the dishes thing and some of the information that I learned that got me out of my situation. So that's kind of where Inspiring Empower People to Hustle came about. And that's where Hustle came about, Hustle Podcast. And that's just where we're at. So yeah. And that's what this hat is about. You know what I'm saying? That's why when I wear this hat, I want this hat to represent. I want someone to see this hat and be like, damn, I gotta go grind, That's why I wear these jewels and shit. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So that's why I'm making this podcast. And that's it. So if you fuck with it and you respect it, then great. If you don't, then so be it. You know what I'm saying? That's cool too, but that's kind of where I'm at. So, and yeah, I could end it here, but I can give you all some tips that I learned along the way that helped me get out of my situation. Like one of those things was budgeting. I made a podcast about budgeting. You can check it out. Another one of those ways was investing in gold. I made a podcast about investing in gold. Another that was just working hard, like working extra shifts, working extra hours. I made a podcast about that. Go be useful. And another one of those ways was investing in stocks. I made a podcast about that. Own yourself. And yeah, and things like that, So there's still things that I'm learning to this day. But that's kind of the things that helped me get out of my situation, And eventually it worked. So that's kind of what I want to pass on to you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep a track of your budget, control expenses, earn income, save, invest, learn, things like that, hustle. So that's where I'm at. Appreciate y'all. Peace.